Hey, Washington football fans, welcome back. So, recently, Logan Paulsen went on John Keim's podcast and he talked about the team's additions in the offseason. And I just want to pass these along because I hadn't seen anybody talk about it yet. And I don't know, he just said a bunch of stuff that got me pumped up. So, let's go ahead and talk about it. First off, he touched on Charles Leno Jr. He had played with him before in Chicago, and he said he's a very athletic left tackle, great in space, and definitely an upgrade at the position. And I mean, that's great to hear. I kind of knew that was what was up when we got him. I was pretty pumped that we did. I knew right away that kind of spelled the end of Morgan Moses' time here, because with him taking over for the left tackle position, I mean, that lets Lucas move over and we just get better all around. So, yeah, like he said, he agrees that it was definitely an upgrade at the position. So, that's good to hear from somebody that's played with him. It makes me really happy to hear that. Then he goes on like a tear, like a little love fest about John Bates, and that really pumped me up because John Bates was a guy that I liked coming out in the draft. I mentioned him in my tight ends video and a couple mock drafts. I thought he provided us a better value later on. Like, sure, I loved Tommy Tremble, like a lot of people did. But I thought, where we would have had to take him was a little higher than we should be devoting that position, for in the draft. I thought we could come back later and get a guy just like Bates that was a great blocker, that has passing upside, just, kind of like Tremble. But he does a lot of things blocking that, not a lot of people, not a lot of their other tight ends still do. So here Logan talked about it. He said at the time of the draft, he hadn't watched any tape on him. So he got to, watching some tape after he heard about him, and he was impressed. He saw some things right away about how good he was as a blocker, and he was really impressed with his ability to sink his hips and uncoil into blocks while keeping his balance. And he said this guy, he fits, the blocking wide tight end role perfectly, which, I mean, I agree with wholeheartedly. And he also went on to say the fact that he's such a great blocker mixed with his ability to contribute in the passing game makes him, and this is a direct quote from Logan Paulsen, a bit of a unicorn. That is a dying breed in the NFL, very hard to come by, but essential to the NFL game. And then he talked about his consistency and blocking acumen, how impressive it was. He compared it to a martial art and how nuanced it is to actually be good at, and that, he's was very impressed that he's already such a high level in it. And he said that he's going to be, very productive in the passing game. Like, he's not going to catch, 40 balls a season, but he's going to be a guy that has solid production in the passing game, but his blocking will help not just the team in general, not just him, but it'll also help the guys like Sammis Reyes, where we could actually use Sammis Reyes as like a Jimmy Graham, just jumbo wide receiver type. And he said that Bates' athletic skill set just it doesn't show up like, it doesn't show up in the measurables. Like, you see his, like, people were unimpressed when they looked at his 40 times and everything, but just the way this guy moves in space and the things he does well translate to the field. Like, the measurables don't look impressive, but if you put it on the tape, you can't help but, be impressed by what he does. And then he talked about his time with Sammis Reyes. He said from the first time he met him until now, it was like a night and day difference. When he was down in Florida, whatever, they were teaching him routes and releases, and he said he's such a big and this is a quote, he's such a big, fast, explosive human being. You just don't see people like that. I've been in the NFL for 10 years. I've seen some of the freakiest human beings on God's green earth, and he's top 5. Not exaggerating. If you can get him on the field, get him to learn the offense, he's going to win because he's physically better than anybody else on the field. And it's his genetics. It's just mom, dad, and God did something, and you have to take advantage of that. I love that. That's one of the greatest things I've ever heard said about a tight end, honestly. Wow. I was already pumped about Sammis Reyes. You guys know I got a couple videos talking about him. He also talked about his work ethic and his improvement and how he's come along. And man, he said, even if we have to wait till next year, this guy's going to be a big impact on the team. But he does see him definitely being a big impact. And I think that, if he's come along that far already, I don't see any reason he doesn't have a tremendous impact this season. So, again, super excited about that. And then he goes on to glowingly speak about Cosmi. Now, Cosmi is another guy I thought Sam Cosmi was a late first round pick. When he made it to us at 51 and we pulled the trigger, like, first of all, I didn't think offensive line was the hugest need for us. When Darrisaw was sitting there, though, at 19, no matter how much I thought we needed linebacker, I still was kind of like, hey, Darrisaw's there. But to make it all the way back to 51 and Sam Cosmi still being there, who is just another athletic freak. Well, let me just get on to what Logan says, because he kind of puts it over on the actual upside that Cosmi has. He says, and this is a quote, he's the guy I'm most excited about. Everyone talks about Jamin and how athletic he is, and we just talked about Reyes, and this is going to sound insane, but Cosmi is the most athletic of all these guys. He's talking about the RAS scores. But then he goes on to talk about how he's 310 pounds with a 34-inch vertical and all of his bench reps and just the freaky athletic stuff this dude's doing at his size. RAS is relative athleticism. So he goes on to say, you see him do stuff on the field and you're like, holy cow, that's a Trent Williams level athlete. Now, as a Washington football fan, we all know how special of an athlete Trent Williams was. So for him to be compared to Trent Williams, I already thought he was, up there in athleticism. I actually may have mentioned it before. But for him to say it, as a former player, as what I consider at the very least, he's, a good evaluator of players. I mean, he's been around enough. He's been a player. He knows what he's talking about. So to hear him says that really nails it home and makes me feel great about what we got in Sam Cosmi. He goes on to attribute some of his shortcomings, well, most of his shortcomings, to the scheme and coaching. He talked about how well he interviewed and how well he tested and how dedicated he is to the game of football. He said his upside is a Pro Bowl level guy for the next 10 to 12 years. Man, if you're a Pro Bowl level guy for 10 to 12 years, that's just like saying you're a Hall of Famer. Because if you get 10, 12 Pro Bowls, you're going in the Hall of Fame. I know the Pro Bowl is kind of a popularity contest, but you bring home 10, 12 of those bad boys, you're getting the gold jacket. So it's almost like saying, hey, this guy could be a Hall of Fame caliber tackle. And he says he has some developing to do, but if you watch his game with LSU in 2019, you see a guy that is a legit top 5 pick. Now, he had some bad misses, but he does some stuff that only 1 or 2 people on the planet can do. And then John Keim added that after those misses, you could see that he learns from them and adjusts on the field. And Logan says if he cleans up his pad level, stops leaning on guys the way he does sometimes, he can see him reaching his potential. But he's super excited about where he can go. And again, he put most of his shortcomings on the coaching and scheme, and he thinks that he has an insane potential at the position. And then he went on and he talked about De'Ami Brown and how impressed he was. You know, kind of the same things that a lot of us were impressed with. His ability to, like, he was very impressed with his ability to track the ball in the air. And he said the confidence he had because he knew it was his, because he knew where it was going to be and how he fought for it. Now, a lot of those things are the same things I really liked about Cosmi. I also liked about De'Ami Brown. Another thing I really liked about De'Ami Brown is just the little things he did to mess up cornerbacks and get open. Like how he would just kind of slow down ever so slightly and then burst forward. You know, these little stutter steps he threw in there and everything like that. He's just very nuanced and just skilled. Like he made an art of just a deep route. It's like, hey, if you're not going to let me show off, you know, the whole route tree here, then I'm at least going to look like the most skilled deep threat ever. And I love that. And, you know, it seems like a lot of other people did too. All in all, I was just very excited to hear Logan talk about these additions to the team. And like I said, since I hadn't heard anybody else mention it, I figured I'd just, you know, put a video out talking about it. Because I really love his assessments. It really, like, I felt the same way about everything he said about these guys. Again, like I said, I knew Leno kind of spelled the N for Moses. I knew he was a great upgrade. I love Bates. I love Cosmi. I love De'Ami Brown. I love Reyes. He was talking about the same guys that have me excited. So, just wanted to mention that it's out there on John Keim's podcast. And, yeah, so let me know what you guys think about these players, the additions in the offseason. If you like the video, please like the video. Please give me a subscribe. I'm pretty close to 300, and I'd love to break that. So, yeah. You guys watched. I love you. Peace.